Today, let's talk about permissions and .NET MAUI applications. Yes, those little pop-ups that you need to use to request different permissions on the different operating systems when you're developing applications. Today, I'm going to talk about everything you need to know about the built-in permission systems of .NET MAUI that lets you handle all sorts of different permissions, but also how to create your own custom permissions for circumstances you may get yourself into when you are needing to access different permissions on all the different operating systems. So tune in. Hey everyone, I'm James, and today we are talking about permissions. That's right, permissions, not the permissions plugin that I have, or the one that turned into the Xamarin Essentials permissions. No, the one that is built into .NET MAUI. Permissions are a very fascinating part of the system. There are sort of permissions that you need to set, like on Android, that are just like invisible, like, hey, I need network access. But there are other ones on all the different operating systems that you need to set and actually need to request those permissions from your users. You need to get that pop-up. You need to get access to them. Each operating system handles it a little bit different. On Android, you kind of get a few different chances to do the permission pop-up. So you can pop up a dialog and request, deny, request, deny. You can actually like get some insight, like if they've denied it a few times with like should show rationale. On iOS, on the other hand, it's a little bit tricky. You get one chance no matter what, and that's it. Like you get one permission prompt and that's all ever. So you'd have to see if it's denied and then tell them to go into settings and turn it on manually. And same thing on Windows. You only get like a few chances there too. And of course, same thing on Mac. You only get one opportunity because it's Mac Catalyst. So you need to kind of understand how the different operating systems work, but you don't need to know exactly how the implementation of each operating system needs to be done, because .NET MAUI has a built-in permissions API to handle things completely cross-platform, which is nice. Now it has a bunch of different permissions out there because you know that every single operating system has a different one, but things like location and network connectivity, things like photos and camera and accessing the file storage, like that's all built in automatically. And today I'm going to show you how to use those APIs, but also when you need to consider custom permissions as well. So for example, I was recently upgrading my application, My Cadence, which speaks to Bluetooth devices. Now on iOS, when you access Bluetooth APIs, it gives you the pop-up and permission automatically, which is quite nice. But on Android, it's very, very complicated. In fact, on Android 11 or API 30 or lower, you needed to request a location permission, which is super weird. But then in Android 12, API 31, you were able to actually have a new Bluetooth permission that's actually built into it, which is quite nice. So there's different sort of process you need to go down there. So let's first talk about the built-in permissions and how we would handle this on Android or iOS or other things, and then how to do a custom permission. So let's get into it. All right, let's talk about those built-in permissions. There's tons of permissions built in to .NET MAUI. You can read all about it in the documentation that I will go ahead and link to. Now we're going to go ahead and implement a Bluetooth permission specifically for Android. Now the first thing I need to do is handle the older location settings. So just location, because that's what was required on Android back in the day. And those are all built into .NET MAUI, which is nice. Now the custom Bluetooth permissions specifically for Android aren't, so we're going to use the custom permissions later on in the video. So here I've created a relay command that's going to say request Bluetooth. Now what's cool about that is that this is built into the MVVM toolkit, so I can go ahead and generate some source code, and it gives me a Bluetooth request right here. And I'll put a video up over there and all the things that you need to know in general. Okay, cool. And I'm only going to show that on Android since we're just using that in this example, but all of the built-in permissions based on what that grid you just saw will be supported. So now let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to do. We're going to use this permission status, which is something that's actually built into .NET MAUI. So Microsoft MAUI application model, there's a permission status. So there's all sorts of different ones like granted, disabled, denied, restricted, limited. Now, by default, it's going to be either unknown or denied, and we're going to need to check that and then do a check or request. So what I can do is go in and say permissions dot, and there's a bunch of these different classes that are inside of permissions. And these are all of the different permissions available. Things like battery, calendar, camera, flashlight, location, maps, media, network state, phone, photo reminders, SMS. Some of these are going to require pop-ups and some of them aren't. So just kind of know based on the platform, some that may be pop-ups, but some of them might be, if you're a library creator, you want to use this as a core to see if we've requested or put in permissions. Now, additionally, there are some methods such as check status async, should show rationale async, which is only an Android specific API, but that basically means that the user has denied at least once or revoked, and you should give them some more information as to why you're requesting it. And then of course, request async. So let's go ahead and first do this. We'll say status equals await permissions dot check status async. Now this check status async takes in a T permission or a base permission. So I'm going to say permissions dot location when in use, just like that. That will give me back some information. So I can say if status equals permission status dot granted, let me just go ahead and return. Else, since I'm on Android and I probably want to be a good citizen, I'll say if permissions dot should show rationale, again, permissions dot location when in use, there. All right. And here what we would do is probably do like a pop-up. So I'd say await shell.current.main or display. There you go, display alert. I'll say needs permission. Here you should give a really good reason, inside of here because you need it. And then, okay, there we go. And I'm not going to return because we actually need to request the permission now. So you guessed it, we're going to go ahead and say status equals permissions dot request async. I'm going to say permissions dot location when in use. So there we go. And again, we're going to wait on that as well. There we go. Perfect. So you guessed it. Check. Should we show rationale? And then actually request it. So let's go ahead and see all the statuses as we run this application. And I'm specifically going to build it up and compile it on my Android emulator. Now, the only other thing I've done is I've gone into my Android manifest file and I've added all the permissions I need, not only for like Bluetooth stuff, but also these access, course location, and find location, which again are required on those older devices. In the future here on Android 12, we're going to use these new Bluetooth scan and Bluetooth connect permissions that we'll see in a few minutes here when we create our own custom permission. And then down here, I'm going to set this uses feature, which is specific to Android, to say only do this on the App Store for devices that have Bluetooth. For setting permissions on iOS or Mac or Windows, you want to go into your info plist or package manifest files and set those up there as well. All right, now this is going to be running on my actual Android device. So let's give this a few minutes to go ahead and compile up and start running. All right, our application has been loaded up. There's our splash screen. And this is a simple application I made to show dependency injection earlier. So it has a bunch of buttons like to navigate and do dependency injection. It has this request Bluetooth button. So let's go ahead and tap on it. And now we can see the first thing is that the permission has been denied, and that's the default state on Android. I believe on iOS it's unknown. So again, there's differences based on the platform because permissions are wacky. Let's continue. Should I show the rationale? Well, no, because in general, I haven't requested it yet. But let's go ahead and request it now. And just like that, we get a permission pop-up asking us what we want to do. So here, while using the app or only this time. So again, it's going to be a little bit different based on the platform. If I select only this time, the next time I launch the application, it won't be granted, it'll be denied again. But I'm going to say while using this app, our status here is granted, and I can continue on using my application. There we go. Now, if I go ahead and tap on this again, what we're going to go ahead and see is that the permission has been granted automatically for me. There we go. So now just like that, nothing else is going to pop up. No permissions, no checks, or anything like that. All right, there we have it. Simple way of implementing permissions on the different operating systems. That exact same source code will work on iOS and on Windows and Mac Catalyst. Now, of course, again, you are going to get different, permission prompts and different areas where you're going to need to add that information, such as the info plist, for example. So make sure you go ahead and read documentation when you want to access those APIs. Okay, what about custom permissions? Because I need to handle that now on Android for Bluetooth. So let's check that out. Okay, we mentioned earlier here that we have these two permissions over here. So we can create our own custom permission that we can use inside of our application. So I'm going to go into my helpers folder, and I'm going to say add new class. So just anywhere inside of my .NET MAUI application, I'm going to say my Bluetooth permission. There we go. Now let's go ahead and clean this up a little bit. There we go. Let's remove all this stuff. Perfect. And we have a Bluetooth permission. Now, if you remember, everything inherited from base permission. And in fact, if I go over here and I right click on location when in use and go to definition, we can see that inside of this class, we have all of these permissions, this required permissions. It's doing a bunch of stuff inside of here. Basically, there's implementation here on the different platforms. So I could inherit from base permission if I wanted to do something completely custom. So let's go ahead and check that out. So I'm going to say base permission. There we go. And bring in the namespace right there. Cool. Now, when I do base permission, that's an abstract class. And what that means is I'm going to create my own permission, and I need to implement all 4 methods that are required to do the checking, the prompting, ensuring that it's been declared correctly. So here, this is really cool because while I'm going to use this for Bluetooth, you could actually have this set up in your application to do something like, you know, my admin permission, you know, my, regular user, my, super user account. So you could use this as your own permission system. It doesn't have to be a prompt, This is something that's built in. These are methods that are automatically there for you. So you can do check status. You can see what the users are logged in, if they're doing stuff. You can do all this automatically. Now, I mentioned though that this location when in use inherits not only from base permission, but from base platform permission. So here we can see that a base platform permission is a permission for the specific platform. So that's actually really, really neat. So base permission enables us to create our own permission, handle everything, tap in to the permission system. But we could say base platform permission here. And when we say base platform permission, we can still override those individual methods that are inside of it, or we can tap in and override platform specific capabilities. So here I have the ability to override check status, do check, ensure declared. There's this required permissions, should show rationale. There's a bunch of these things. So base platform permission is the Android, iOS, Mac, or Windows implementation. So you're not going to have this available if you're accessing this in sort of like a different, .NET Standard or .NET 6 library. But if you're inside your MAUI application, this is going to work great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let me override the required permissions. So what we want to do is say, hey, listen, .NET MAUI is already doing all the hard work. It knows how to prompt on Android, tie into the different systems. What if I just tell it different permissions to use, for example? Well, I can do that. So what I can do is I can say, let's create a new list of string permission, and bool is runtime here. And then this requires an array. So I'm just going to say toArray, just like that. And there we have it. Now I need to give it the 2 different permissions that I need. I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste that in here to make it just a lot easier in general. I guess I need to do this tuple correct as well. There we go. Perfect. So I'm going to give it a tuple of permission and bool. So if you take a look at the actual source code implementation for these different permissions, we can actually tap over here and say MAUI source essentials source. You could tap in to permissions, which is going to be right here in Android. And then you could go ahead and take a look at how these were implemented, right? So we could see that here's base platform permission. We can see all the status checks, all the source code. And really all that was really required, if we go down further here for battery, for example, is that it's going to take in an override. It can also check if the different things are implemented or not, if it's in the manifest. But for calendar, it simply overrides that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to override that one method and we're done. Okay, well, almost. Now, that's an Android specific override. So if I toggle this over to iOS, we're going to see that now required permissions aren't there. If I hit override, we're going to see I have other things like required info plist keys. Oh my goodness. So there's two ways that we can handle this. One, we could put this into our platform folder, into our Android here. We could also create, an actual interface to say Bluetooth permission check and then implement it on the different platforms. Or we can conditionally compile. So I can say if Android and do end if. And that's it. Now that API is only going to be exposed on Android. Now we're totally good to go, which is awesome. So that's one way of doing it. You can also create partial classes and you can make sure the namespace is aligned. And you can have a partial class inside of your Android and then up here. Okay, but this is what I'm going to do because I think this is much more elegant to just simply put this in here for this one use case. Now, next up, I'm going to need to go ahead and check these permissions. So this is actually kind of cool. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go in and say, if device info dot platform does not equal device platform dot Android, then we're going to return because I'm only doing this on Android. And as we mentioned earlier, I'm only going to show this on Android anyways. The next thing I'm going to do over here is I'm going to say if device info dot version dot major is greater than or equal to 12. Because again, on Android 12 and above, that specifically is where the new API needs to be used. So I can go ahead and do this. I'll do else. There we go. And I can go ahead and copy this into this block. I can also now copy that exact same thing into this block, but instead of using permissions.location when in use, you guess it, I'm going to use my Bluetooth permission, just like this, which is very cool. Boom. Now it's going to use my new Bluetooth permission, which is super rad. So now what I can do is add some breakpoints on top of here. Let's add the breakpoints here. Let's add the breakpoints here. Let's add one more down here too. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and toggle this over to my actual Pixel 4 device so we can see it running on my actual Pixel phone, which is kind of cool. And again, let's add another breakpoint here for the version so we can make sure that that's actually running only on this specific source code. So let's give this a few seconds to compile up and get running. Okay, my application is running. I'm actually going to use Visor here to screen mirror because the permission prompt isn't going to be visible inside of this here. So let's go ahead and close this down. Now I'm going to hit the request Bluetooth and we're going to see that our version over here is version 12. So we're totally good to go. Now let's go ahead and check the permission and we can see that it's denied. That's the default state. Let's go ahead and run through and sure enough, we get our new permission that's asking about relative position of nearby devices, aka Bluetooth devices, and we can simply say allow or don't allow, just like that. And now we can see that our status is granted right in our source code. And just like that, we've implemented custom permissions and used the default permissions in .NET MAUI. It's a really great way of extending the permission system and overriding and using that base implementation. If you need to, you can of course tap into iOS and Android different resources there, which I think is really cool. And of course, you can always create your own interface and do different things. If you're like, Bluetooth permission, handle it separately, totally up to you, whatever you want to do. But I think that conditional compilation in this case, it makes it very, very easy to do. Hopefully you found this video not only helpful when just doing normal permissions, but also if you run into that issue and sort of, not even issue, but circumstance where custom permissions are needed, now you know how to do it. I'll link to all the documentation below and of course this sample as well, showing you exactly how to do it. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And of course, don't forget to subscribe, ding that notification bell so you get notified every time I put out a video right here on YouTube. All right, that's gonna do it for this time. Feel free to leave questions and comments below. I really appreciate it. Have a good one.